Well, hey, everybody. How is everyone out there in Facebook land? I hope you are doing well. I hope you enjoyed the Facebook Live that I did yesterday, in which we talked about, I titled it, Can't We All Just Get Along? Famous quote. And what I was talking about was just to summarize this series of Facebook Lives that I've been on. I'm looking at all things healthcare. And you might know, because of the Throwback Thursday post that I've been posting, you might know that I'm born to medicine. And my mother's a nurse. My dad's a doctor. And actually been married to medicine for over a decade now. So this is an increasingly I guess so, just because as an adult, as a spouse, I see the ramifications more and more and more. So yeah, it is increasingly important, and at a time when things are increasingly dire. So what I've done up until now, I have listed some observations and values, basically, in the best sense of the word, tolerance and what systems thinking is and sustainability thinking is. That means you don't have the luxury. It's not a good luxury, but the luxury of our culture right now, and our privilege right now, is that we can just be outraged about everything before or whether or not we check it out. Now, if you're outraged after you check things out and it's something that is very outrageous, then it's not a privilege thing. You've actually are justifiably outraged at it. But if you just tweet and do what we all do, including me, I did this to a friend. Knee-jerk reacted to something and regretted it about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So this happens to all of us. Our minds and our brains and our emotions are being played, and this is just happening a lot. But if you want a systems view, if you want sustainability, if you say that you care about these things, you can't jump on the cancel culture or the outrage culture bandwagon. You have to think it through and try to, I would suggest, if you want to gain influence with people that need to make different decisions, then you need to honor and respect them as human beings, and then influence them to see if you can change a few policies or whatever. That's kind of what I'm doing in these Facebook Lives. So I kind of, those are kind of some of the basic values that I have. Another thing is, this is traditional medicine. So everybody, it seems, wants to, bring alternative medicine theories and ideas and maybe even success stories and good things into a conversation that's aimed at people who are in traditional medicine. And I'm not blocking those. I can't really block it. I'm not going to block it. I'm just going to ask that you keep any of your thoughts or ideas or experience or whatever. Just keep in mind, we're trying to influence people in traditional medicine. All right. I am not in the club, by the way, meaning I am not a medical doctor. I didn't get the grades. I didn't do the work. I didn't borrow the money. I didn't, go without sleep for a decade, which is basically what you do in medical school and residency and everything else. I didn't do that, so I'm not in the club. I'm just kind of in the son club, and I'm in the spouse club. All right, so I try to tread very lightly and gingerly about this. So what I've done, just to review, I think in my first one, I talked about the 4 parties that are in here. So I don't have visuals right now, but you've got the patients right there. Everybody is a patient at one point or another. We are all patients. All right. Then you have the 2 parties that are in really central to this entire system. If these 2 parties don't work together and find a way to combine forces and really work together for the patients and for the entire system, this thing is going to keep crumbling even faster than it already is. The 2 other parties, the providers, which are the doctors and the nurses, and the doctors want to have a separate category. I'm lumping everybody into the provider category, and then the people that run the hospitals, the administrators. So I'm staying with the P's here. The people that run the hospitals and the systems, the administrators, the managers, the executives, in some cases, the leaders. All right. I believe that leadership is it's not a title or a position. It's something that you have to do in a certain way. You have to earn that word leader. You might be a boss, but you might not be a leader unless you really do the hard work. And that said, what I did, I think last time, I said, can't we all get along? Can't the providers and the people in charge choose to get along? What I'm going to do in this Facebook Live, and my knees are shaking. You can't see below the desk here, but my knees are shaking because I only know what little I've done, surface level. I'm going to just say this, okay? Surface level research, all right? I know what HCAHPS is as an acronym. I know, I've tried to sift through some of the gobbledygook and the legalese of it. And really, I never wanted to tackle this at all. I was talking to my friend, the financially intelligent physician. This is David Norris, MD, MBA. So he can kind of live in either world. He can live in the physician world. He's an anesthesiologist, so he does that world very well. And he can also do executive world very well because he earned an MBA on his one day off for 2 years and got an MBA as he was already a practicing physician. And then he went back and simplified the whole thing for other people in healthcare, especially physicians that don't want to sacrifice 2 years of Saturdays. You should check him out, the financially intelligent physician. Actually, I have his book right over here. I think I'll show it. So anyway, it was kind of it wasn't even his idea. This is David's book right here. It's a really, really good book, especially if you don't normally like stuff like accounting and stuff like that. You can get a quick gist of what's going on without having to take, credit hours somewhere. So what we were talking about, he was, talking with me about some of my other sustainability solutions to give more time and margin to busy, increasingly stressed out physicians. And we got talking at, a bigger level about, HCAHPS scores in hospitals and doing all this. So I went to a website, started researching this, got depressed because I'm like, who do I think I am to fix this? And then I realized the next week I was so confused. A week later, I realized, hey, this isn't even really my idea. I never set out to fix anything. I'm here with a nice large Band-Aid that many people think could really work for physicians, and then we started leveling it up. And that got me interested in this whole thing about HCAHPS. And then you've probably read the description on this post, which I'm going to, as is my custom, I'm going to keep walking my way through. And so this Facebook Live is going to be all about, can we, all right, you as viewers and many of you in healthcare yourself, hopefully we have some hospital administrators or billing people or compliance officers, people like that, who also are watching and sharing this if I do a decent job of explaining it. But what I want to do is say, can we suspend the outrage and think about the plight of people who, as I said in the last video, I said, what happens when all the leaders quit? What happens when all the bosses quit, all the administrators? If they were to quit, what would happen? There would be a vacuum. Probably a bunch of people would step forward, maybe some nurses, probably a lot of physicians eventually would step up. What would they find? They would find that there is a big rotten core. And I didn't talk about what that rotten core consisted of, but that's what we're going to talk about today. Because if you are hiring highly skilled people who have hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans, and they do a good job, and they know how to do brain surgery, and they know how to work in the ER, and and keep people alive, and do all of this stuff, and you've got these caring nurses that you have to, pay for, and then you have their own health care and you have their own retirement. This is not inexpensive. And any enterprise, you need to be able to be reimbursed fairly for the work that you do. And that fairness, if you watch Shark Tank, if you watch The Profit with Marcus Lemonis, is a better example. The Prophet, he goes into a workplace and you see these cool little infographics, and then you see the margin that a brick and mortar business needs to operate on. And usually, a retail business that's struggling, Marcos Lemonis goes in there and then he gets to the numbers. He's like, you only have a 20% margin. We need to increase this margin. It usually increases it, to 30% or 40%. Well, hospitals, I didn't realize this. They only operate on, they are break even. They have like a 2% profit margin if everything went perfectly, which, guess what? Believe it or not, in healthcare, things don't go perfectly. That's why it's an emergency room. Everything is a perpetual emergency. So things don't go very well. And what I'm going to do is explain. This is horrific. I'm going to explain to you. I'm typing up my Facebook so I can read as I do. This is absolutely horrific because I'm gonna just give you a very shocking word picture right now, because it's as if the people that created this system imagine snatching away the scalpel from the hand of the surgeon, snatching it away, giving the scalpel an instrument that is designed to do great good, but in the wrong hands, it can do great harm. And imagine snatching that thing up and giving it to the hand of the patient, the good patient, the patient that deserves quality care, the patient that deserves, to be helped. But the patient should not be the one with the scalpel. I'm slowing down because I'm trying... I'm moving my windows so that I can try to read what I wrote without slowing my RAM down. And it's just not going to let me do it. So I'm going to pull it up on my phone, which is less ideal, but that's what I'm going to do. Sorry for the technical play-by-play. Basically, folks, the government has given us, the patient, the non-expert. I know that's offensive to you that I would say, I'm not an expert, and unless you're a surgeon, you're not an expert. But the government has given us a financial scalpel in the form of what they call a survey. And when you just list out the acronym for this survey, what they call a survey, and you list out the acronym, what's the A in what I'll talk about, the HCAHPS survey? What does the A stand for? It's an assessment, or they could have just as well called it an audit, or I would also accept report. All right. If they put a report on there, what do you think of when you hear the word report? Well, if it's a report, that could be a little iffy because I'm writing a history report. I could put my own opinion on it, but I have to support it with facts at least. But a survey, I was talking about this the other day. The Amazon lady parks the car in my driveway, walks right up, gives me a package. As I'm talking about this rate and review culture that we have, and it was just a perfect timing, because we have been given, when we go in for an overnight stay as an insured patient, and not everybody is an overnight patient, inpatient person in a hospital. Not everybody in a hospital is insured. And so that's the debate we're having, and all of this stuff happening right now. But there's a sizable percentage that are insured patients, and I think by extension, as an insured patient, if you have insurance, you don't want your hospital to be under reimbursed when they take care of, unless they skip things, in which case that's what the assessment is there for. I'm not going to call it a survey, all right? And, it's just amazing to me. It's almost craven. And I was having the debate with myself and my recorder as I was walking home from the library. That's what I do. You wonder how these things spin out into Facebook Lives. It's because I have conversations and debates with myself in my phone. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to break my rule. I'm going to tell everybody, I'm going to break my rule, because my rule, what did I say already? Assume noble intent. All right? Assume the best in everybody. And why do we do that? Because we want to influence people. But you know what? I'm going to actually sidestep my rule for one reason, which I think is a good reason. And I'm not even going to single anybody out. I'm not going to rail against, bureaucracy or the government or whatever, because there are good people everywhere really making a difference. If they weren't sticking to what they were doing, and at least until wrapping up the next project, all kinds of things would fall apart. So I'm not going after people still. But I'm thinking, okay, the more I look into this thing, if I want to be benevolent, I would call it incompetence, but that's not cool, because I would rather have like this nefarious intent. I would rather assume, instead of noble intent, I would rather in this case assume that when they put this whole thing together, nefarious intent, because the outcomes are so horrible. Unless you are trying to deconstruct and destroy eventually the entire system because there's inequity and it's not fair to everybody, which really important points and discussions to have. But unless you're trying to just deconstruct to the point of eroding and destroying the whole thing, the outcome, I would rather they have put this together with nefarious. Okay, we're going to make it the patient's fault. When the patient rates and reviews the care they received, and they were expecting a Marriott hospital hip replacement experience. All right, they were expecting to have a once-in-a-lifetime Disney World resort hospital experience, but what they got was the Motel 6 hip replacement hospital experience. Now, I'm doing crazy talk here, but hopefully this is everyday language a little bit, because I think the best that we can hope for in our hospitals is kind of a Motel 6 experience. And you know what? I remember the old radio ads from Motel 6. I don't know if the brand has gone downhill or whatever, but this folksy guy came, "Hi, I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6. When you check into one of our hotels, you ain't going to get the fancy, HBO. You're not going to have an indoor pool. Heck, you're not even going to have a lobby. But what you will get is a clean bed, comfortable mattress, clean shower and bathroom, and you'll be able to lay your head down for a nice, refreshing nap. My name's Tom Bodette from Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you." That's what the old radio ad did. Okay, now I'm culturally appropriating my wife's heritage of the South. My wife doesn't sound like that, but I'm having a little bit of fun because that's what he sounded like. And you know what? That resonated. Trust and authenticity on the radio ad, not what I just did, because I just completely, that was a farce. All right, that was a farcical reading of that. But you know what? I mean, this is the thing. If you gave me the HCAHPS, what they call a survey, which is really the government using me to provide free auditing services, and if the hospital does not get a perfect score in my mind, then the hospital that needs, is counting on a 2%, 1%, 3% maybe profit margin at most, I give that hospital a 4-star. Now, I don't know that they have a star ranking, but just to simplify, if I give the hospital, I say they did a better than average job, they're getting 4 stars. I've just destroyed the hospital. All right? That hospital, how are they going to make it up? Well, if you were sitting in that hot seat and you were getting 70% of what you were counting on to pay all the nurses' salary and the janitor's salary and the surgeon's salary and the executive salary and all the people and the ombudsman's and the social worker's salary, or whoever the hospital employs, and you're getting, okay, wow, where do we make up the 30%? And if you annualize that, we're talking what's a hospital's budget? Is it $5 million? Is it $10 million? Is it $20 million? I mean, that's a small hospital, right? So 30% shortfall, a 10% shortfall. Okay, this is what's been going on, my friends, for the last 11 years. And the interesting thing, when I researched this, before you start jumping all over President Obama, this is before Obama. This thing was invented during the George W. Bush administration. It was mandated in 2008. I don't know if that was early or late 2008 or whatever, but I mean, this was mandated. And this is very, very, very bad. So I kind of sideline this. If you are in the hot seat, if you are the chief financial officer of the hospital and you're looking at this and you gave, you spent this much money to hire the people, the providers, the personnel, and you got this much in, and there's this giant gap of hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars, what do you do? So, and the government caps reimbursements for a lot of the procedures that are out there. So you've got a ceiling. It's like Marcus Lemonis from The Prophet going into a hospital saying, oh, I've got a solution for your problem. Okay, well, we're going to change the price of this. And they say, no, Marcus Lemonis, you can't. He doesn't go to hospitals. But I like to bleed over analogies a little bit. They would say, we're not allowed to charge that because Medicare, these regulations, all that, they have a ceiling. So what's the only thing you can do? Well, here's what you can do. You can let the hospital die, and you can shut down the hospital because we can't have nice things because it's financially unsustainable. That's a choice. Then everybody loses. Then everybody dies. Everybody goes broke or bankrupt if they get to go to some other hospital that's going to do the other option, which is the shell game of pricing. All right, there's a lot of justified outrage because we're all patients. We all have grandmothers who got, airlifted to the hospital and then had a financial surprise and then went broke. And that's not nice to do to grandma. And nobody is in favor of this. If you are, make a comment. Let me know who you are. You're an interesting person. All right. We are all patients. We all are family members of patients. And this is horrible. And this is why I, a near completely ignorant person who knows a little bit about design and sustainability, I'm just kind of blowing the horn on this and hopefully doing an okay job. I got a comment from a distinguished professional yesterday. I was just flabbergasted and honored that he would say such kind things about what I'm trying to do in some of these updates, and I hopefully hitting the mark enough. Those are the choices. Okay, shut the whole thing down, and that happened at Hahnemann, right up the street. I'm 30 miles outside of Philadelphia. Whole hospital shut down. New owner took over the hospital. Oh my gosh! Wow, I didn't know the situation was this bad. Wow, we're really bleeding a lot of money here, and they couldn't fix it, or maybe they wouldn't fix it. I don't know, but they're like, hey, I can sell the building and turn it into a bunch of expensive condos and make a lot of money. And that's what's happening now. And everybody's really mad about it. Now, is that a capitalist thing? I guess it's a capitalist thing, but here's my comeback that you'll hate me for saying. Here's my comeback. My comeback is this. Healthcare is not capitalist. Healthcare is kind of halfway socialist, and it's kind of an apples and oranges thing right now. So it's not a fair game at the moment. It's really, really not cool at all. So, and I'm looking at this right now, and I'm wondering how I got a dot on my screen, and that's a little distracting. Hopefully all the stuff that I wrote that's providing a lot more context than my commentary is up there. So, you know what? I'm going to. All right. So here it is. It did show up. So with all that said, 25 minutes into, why do I do the timer? Because it's a tease, and the biggest tease is not for you; it's for me. All right. That's my introduction right here. 25 miles into it. All right. Let's see if there's anything to comment on that I forgot. This has been happening since 2006, and it's been mandated since 2008. The deeper roots of the financial insolvency of hospitals. All right, so we can just curse the system. We can curse the people in leadership positions in the system. We can be angry at the doctor just because they're part of the system, or we can take a sustainability view. We can take a holistic view. We can put our the big pants on. All right. And I'm going to say in a moment, there are medical errors. There are bad things that have happened. And sometimes even intentionally or just like not even accidentally. So we have a legal system, a very robust legal system that anyone can go to for recourse if it comes to that. There are, settlements. There are ethics committee. There are all kinds of intended safety nets. And sometimes all of this stuff isn't even enough. But I'm saying before we get to the malpractice or the medical error or the, any of that stuff, if we're not even compensating our hospital, if the institution doesn't have a prayer financially, all this other stuff is just a smokescreen. All right? So I'm talking about the deeper roots of insolvency of hospitals. So that means nobody gets any hospital. That means nobody gets any health care unless we break the rules, which you can do if you're an elected official. I don't mean that to sound the way it just did, but financial bailout. Again, George W. Bush was at the helm then. All right. So if you're a super conservative or super not conservative or whatever, I'm just stating facts. All right, we all bailed out the financial institutions, and that's not cool. And that's not the rules. All right, small business does not get to operate. Normal people that are not, that are not politicians or, kind of in the social circle or in the families or whatever. Again, I'm not talking about political stuff. All right, I can't say anything right now without it sounding like I'm really trying to be snarky. I'm really not. I'm trying to get through this as a public service announcement. All right. So the normal rules, if you don't make a profit, you go broke. All right. There's no bailout. You all open up a comic book store on Main Street. You gotta sell more and make a profit, or else you're gone and nobody cares. All right. So this is normal, life. All right, so the hospital consumer assessment for healthcare providers and systems. Does that sound like a survey to you, or does that sound like an assessment? Does that sound like the government, instead of the government, and maybe to give them maybe an ounce of potential credit, maybe they were thinking, hey, we're going to cut out ourselves as the middleman and make the consumer, make the patient, they're not consumer, they're patient. We're going to make them do the auditing work. Hey, and then we don't have to have more people in the healthcare department getting paid to interview. Well, the problem with that is you've made the patient the unaware expert and given them the power of the purse, which is unbelievably catastrophic. What if we did that for the military? Hey, here's a gun. Hey, civilian, here's a bazooka. All right? Does that rub you the right way? I don't think so. Right? We got growing, violence in this country. And if you own like a hunting rifle and you're watching this from central New York somewhere, know that, most people are not friendly to guns necessarily, especially the ones in the city. That analogy doesn't sit very well. Well, we're doing the same thing in healthcare. It's like, hey, patient, we'll make you the expert. We'll give you the blank check. And, pay as much or as little. Honor system, right? Honor system for patients. But we're not even telling patients it's the honor system. This is ridiculous. And this is, again, why I'm like, normally assume noble intent, but I would feel better about the government if they intended nefariously to set it up this way, because the only alternative I can think of is they were just incompetent, ignorant, and didn't think it through, or made political voting concessions to just do something, to have something to show for their time. And if you're one of the many really good people who are really competent, who are working in a bureaucracy, please accept my apologies for going on that little mini rant, because I'm seeing the too short. Comment and give me a third option. All right. When the third option is everybody's hand is handcuffed, I guess, and nobody can stand up and make any change. That's not much of a better option. All right. So I talked about this, assume noble intent. I'm breaking the rule in this video because I kind of have to. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So we got a sinking ship. I talked about Hahnemann. I put an example here that I didn't really get into. Imagine if this was you and your paycheck. All right, I'm going to make this extra personal. If this still hasn't resonated with you and you're like the CEO of a hospital makes, 30 times or 300 times or 3 billion times what the average nurse makes, which they may make that. Well, if everybody hates you, that doesn't justify the pay or the disparity for everybody, but it doesn't make it easier. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a career after you lose this is probably the penultimate job, because people could drag your name through the mud. You may never work again. So that those may be, I'm just thinking, wild guessing why executives may make so much money, because they may be trolled so badly, and maybe justifiably so, that they will never be able to work again, perhaps. And am I like, oh, feel bad for the poor executive? Well, not necessarily, but I'm saying, it's a consideration. There was a Phil Hartman. Remember Phil Hartman? And he would be like playing the violin, and it was very sarcastic. That was what I was channeling right there. Okay. We're making this personal. All right. So we're making this about you and me, but we're going to make it about you. Because you're the one that's making decisions on how good a job I'm doing explaining. So if you're not full commission sales or self-employed, like I am, and like a lot of people are, if you have a paycheck, or if you don't, imagine that you have a paycheck. All right. Basically, in a nutshell, what the government has done is because we want to be more equitable, which is a noble goal, it's a noble intention, especially if you can figure out a way to do it without deconstructing and then destroying eventually the system. Hey, because we want to have this noble goal, we are now going to control and limit and cap what you can charge as a hospital. All right. And then, so now you've got a limit of whatever your salary is. Okay. Let's say it's 50 grand. All right. Let's say it's $1,000 a week, 50 grand. All right. Now, if you have a family, that's not going to go very far. If you just got out of college, still not going to go very far, because you probably have student loans. But if you took Mike Rowe, the dirty job guy, and took his advice and went to like a trade school or, welding, I read somewhere that welders make 6 figures, which is interesting. So if you're a welder, that wouldn't be good, because that would be capping your income, apparently, because all the white-collar folks that went to college and paying back their student loans, we don't have these skills anymore. So anyway, so the government's capping your thing, and you're there, and you've got this limit. And then what the government says in this regulation here of HCAHPS, what HCAHPS does is they say, not only are you capped, but now what we're going to do is we're going to make give your boss the ability to review you and how good you're doing. You say, well, yeah, that everybody gets that, Nathan. Well, here's what you don't get when you have a boss review. Usually, no boss is going to give you a perfect review. Then they're going to be like, oh, then they're going to ask for a raise. If your boss gave you a perfect review, what would you do? Like right in the moment, well, can I make more money? So that's not going to happen. So what in this analogy, your boss not only rates and reviews you, but then if you get, if you did a decent job, You get 4 stars out of 5. Again, HCAHPS is not a star system, but this is my simplification. All right. 4 stars. You're doing a good job. Here's what I'd like to see you do. Okay, great. You get your paycheck and it's $800 instead of $1,000. You're like, what the heck? Whoa, hey, And no, is this going to? Yeah, this is going to continue. You're going to make $800 a week until our next review, right? In which you're capped at 1,000, maybe a year from now. That's what's happening to hospitals. So the government has taken the scalpel, literally, the financial scalpel of reimbursements, the infusion, the blood supply of cash flow, given the patient who does not know how to do surgery or does not know, just needs help. They gave us a blank check to rate and review the care we received from the hospital. And if we don't give them what we think is a superhuman Yelp review, like you don't go to like an authentic restaurant and give like a 5-star review unless they're just mind-blowing. All right, you're going to go on Yelp, and if the restaurant is really authentic, all right, I love, we have a great South Indian vegetarian food buffet down the street, all right? And you read the reviews, all right, of other people of that culture, and this place is a great place. It's getting 2-star reviews. It's getting 4-star reviews. It's getting 3-star reviews, 2.5 star. And the pickiest, most petty comments in many cases for a restaurant review. That's what we're doing with our hospitals, all right? Or and it's being aided and abetted by the idea that it's a subjective, objective, opinionated survey. Or not an objective, but a opinionated, subjective survey. It's not a survey. There is no survey. There is no, a report R in the acronym. I'm looking up the acronym because I still can't remember what it says. It's A for assessment. All right? It is an assessment. It is not a survey. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And we're the ones doing it. The government has put us, you and me, the patients, on an honor system, and we don't even realize it. All right? Here's another way to think about this. Now, if you're an executive of a hospital or healthcare system, or CEO of a hospital, or even working in a clinic or whatever, customer care, because we're all being enabled as citizens, and we're all being entitled as customer reviewers. So what could we do? I don't want to just go on this big rant and just negative Nathan, right? I don't even need to call myself a negative Nelly. I'm a negative Nathan, right? My little sister has a little saying. Would you like to know what the saying is? Final tangent. She says, "Nate, your attitude stinks." My little sister, in the way that only a little sister, and then my other little sister picks up, and she chimes up, "Nate, your attitude stinks." So I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to be positive right now. I hope you appreciate my positivity. So if you're in leadership, or if you're in boss-ship of an institution, you think you're a leader, and the people below you, the doctors, the providers, the nurses, they think you're a boss, but you're really, if they only knew the true leadership decisions that you're making, if they only knew how much you were shielding from not unloading and micromanaging any more than you absolutely have to, because you're being micromanaged. That's what we don't understand about administrators and hospital leaders and managers. They're in the middle too. They are being micromanaged too. The CEO of a hospital network is herself being micromanaged, and they are in the middle just as much, maybe even more so than anybody else. But it all just trickles down. Again, not being political, it all trickles down. The micromanagement and the fear and the bad culture, it all trickles down, and it's not cool. So positive things, all right? Here's what we could say, because in the language of Amazon Rate and Review or HCAHPS survey, that's just like we have to, the first thing that we have to do, first thing is break the idea that it's qualitative. What did that mean? Qualitative instead of quantitative. What is quantitative? That's quantity. That's objective. All right. What is qualitative? That's a report. That's a survey. That's an opinion. All right. Everybody has an opinion. You know, you have a right to your opinion, but not when it bankrupts the hospital, except that's the system that's been set up. It's not cool at all. So if I'm a CEO, if I'm a hospital president, if I'm a director of a department in a heck, if I'm the janitor of a hospital, I'm going to try to educate the patients a little bit. This is not a survey. This is not an opinion. I know they have the word survey there, but really it's a report. And because it's a report, it's an objective report. All right. If you put your opinion and you Yelp review the hospital in your community is basically going to have to go out of business or be bailed out, or in the interim, we have this horrible perpetuation of lack of price transparency that everybody's writing books about. But in some of these books I'm reading, I'm a little bit perturbed, more than a little bit, because I go to the index. I'm like, where's the word reimbursement? All right. What can they explain why hospitals are resorting to this horrible practice of lack of price transparency that we're all outraged by? The word reimbursement isn't in the index. There's pages and pages of index. The word HCAHPS or the term HCAHPS is not there. I'm like, that's really, that's an oversight at best. That's an innocent oversight at best. At worst, it's playing different people and different parties who are vital to healthcare against each other for the sake of patients and voters and maybe politicians, who are the other two parties. Not going to get into that right now. But anyway, so it's this objectivity. That would be patient education piece number one. And it's like, if you have a portion of your patients who have insurance and are not, criminal, they're honest people with jobs who need to have a hospital in their town, what I would do is say, please, we want to partner with you. We want to give you the best standard of care possible. And the most important thing that you need to know, and then I would go into educating them about, is it a survey or is it really an audit? And then the terminology, and if there's a regulation, if it's illegal to call it this or to do this kind of thing, just some knowledgeable person, please comment and tell me, no, you can't do it, Nathan. That would make sense if you can't do it. But if there isn't a law against doing this, I would say, you know what, instead of a perfect 5-star review or whatever the equivalent is, I know there are 12 factors, I think, and there's more complex than that. But instead of thinking perfect 5-star Yelp restaurant, South Indian restaurant review, that if you give, then a 5-star, it means you're not sophisticated enough. No, get rid of that. No. Anything less than a complete, I would use the word complete if that's not illegal. A complete review, because that's a complete report. Now I'm using the wrong words. A complete reporting of the services that were rendered and the quality, the basic quality, basic standard quality. If you give us anything less than a complete reporting of that, then we're going to take a massive financial loss. That's basically the idea. So if I'm a hospital executive, if I'm a hospital CEO, if I am a surgeon in the hospital or doctor in the hospital or head of HR in the hospital or whatever it is, I'm going to start water coolering these concepts with my colleagues and see if at least slow the bailing of water, slow the bleeding of the hospital's cash flow. We can slow the bleeding by just partnering with the community and educate them on just that one fact. And then I've got other, ideas and whatnot, but I hope that makes sense. So I'd really appreciate if anybody got to this part in the video who actually works in a hospital and deals with these things on a day in, day out basis. Is that something that most hospitals are doing? I did a little bit of research. I didn't do enough research. You can never do enough research, but I know that there are about 6,000 plus hospitals. About 1,000 of them are VA hospitals or other kinds of non-community hospitals. There are about 5,000 community hospitals. So for those community hospital, I would think that they should all already have a patient education onboarding mechanism. And I even went online. I saw like a company that does like patient education videos and staff education videos, but we need to go even farther, deeper beyond that. But that would be a great first step if you didn't have that at all. My gosh, I can't imagine that the hospital wouldn't do that at all. But as I talk to people, it's almost as if people are so paralyzed by the infighting and the outfighting and just doing their basic jobs so that people don't have complications and bad things, that there's no bandwidth left at the end of the day, and burnout everywhere is a major issue. You might be asking me, hey Nathan, why aren't you interviewing more people about physician burnout? It's because I'm finding I don't want to call them ideas, because when I talk and I run them by practicing board certified physicians, they're like, that's a good solution, Nathan. I said, I don't want to call it a solution. It's a partial mitigating Band-Aid at best. But it's like, I'm not talking about burnout anymore, because I don't want to harp on any more problems. To talk about the solutions, partial Band-Aids, you have to talk about the problem. So I'm doing enough talking about the problem. We have some Band-Aids here. Let's see how long the Band-Aid stays sticky, and then let's design a bigger Band-Aid, and then let's figure out how to prevent the Band-Aid in the first place. My name's Nathan Eckel. This has been HCAHPS 101 for all of you. It's basically the government putting patients, overnight patients, on the honor system, and how well are they going to rate and review on this so-called survey their hospital. And if they get anything less than a perfect score on the hospital will go out of business sooner or later. I'm amazed that hospitals operate for 11 days under this system without going broke. It's been 11 years, my friend. Please let me know if this meant anything to you, if this made sense to you, if you have loved ones, spouses, partners, people in your life, friends who are in this system and just looking for some kind of sustainable view. I don't have all the answer. I have a sustainability. All this was somebody who's a systems designer looking at these issues and saying, why can't it operate over here unless there's already a law or a regulation about that? Couple things. I can now announce, because now I have all the forms and the paper, the websites up. If you are a physician, if you are tired of the burnout and the angst and all of that, next Saturday, which is, what is that, the 16th, the 18th, the 19th? The 19th. Next Saturday, the 19th, I am actually going to have a walkthrough. I've talked to you before. Actually, I haven't, on a Facebook Live, how I'm saving Dr. F over 100 hours a year by helping him repeat himself less with patients while increasing his connection with his patients. And most physicians are burned out. The ones that are burning out, it's not because they don't do enough yoga or mindfulness or any of this other. It's because we've got this political environment where people that, and this is going to be a future Facebook Live, I call it a Michael Scott promise from The Office. I'll go into detail about my favorite episode of The Office. This is very dark, dank humor. But we've got a lot of promises that have already been made for decades, and now we've got even more promises being made, and the people that are making the promises aren't in healthcare. So that would be like me promising all these great healthcare promises. I don't know healthcare. I don't know how to deliver. So I believe there's such a thing as an irresponsible promise, and then I believe there's such a thing as a responsible, a good promise, an attainable promise. We'll talk about that. But that to the side, I'm going to be doing a workshop on not physician burnout or any of that stuff. I'm going to be talking about margin for physician. I guarantee if you are a patient-facing physician, I am going to be able to create at least 100 hours annually of sustainable margin for you. This year, not this year because we're in October, but next year, the year after that, the year after that. But what you're going to have to do, here's what I realized. I'm like, what do I give people when they sign? I give them, I'm going to give them access to this workshop. All right. I'm not going to give them a download. I'm not going to give them a report. I'm not going to give them anyway. I'm giving time. Nobody else that I know of is giving time to people. All right. So that's what you get if you sign up. If you got to this part in the video and you're frustrated that I didn't put the link out, because I'm not going to put the link out. If I don't have enough social proof that somebody's going to be the first to ask me for the link, then I will respond with the link. See, it's like, it's like, here's where we're at. And this is the gentleman's agreement. If you're a gentleman, if you're a lady, or if you're a they gender, because I understand that's the thing. So I used a gendered term there, the gentleman's agreement, which is a historical term. Okay. So my agreement is this. All right. I have had limited, I don't have this agency behind me. I don't have other people that I can delegate all this stuff. And I don't yet, and I will soon, but I'll have a graphic, design brand manager that makes sure all my visuals look as amazing as this thing is. I don't have that right now. And it's been putting so much pressure in my head to think that I needed to bring that to you on the front end instead of these possible solutions for you. And I say possible just because you haven't made it. This depends on you. I don't have a license to practice medicine. They'll throw me in jail for that. So other people have to do this, have to implement this. Other people who have a license to practice medicine, they're the ones, not me. They're the ones, you're the ones that need to choose to practice by design. You're the ones that need to choose every day to make design your new default, which is how you're going to save time and create margin for yourself so that we can, wrestle with these bigger issues maybe. I mean, I would ultimately love to see you at the leadership table. I would love to see good, caring, proven, ethical physicians, more of them at the governance table, in the board of directors in a health system or network. That's what I would love to do. But getting back to this whole thing, my stuff right now, visually, it's all, if it's to be, it's up to me, and it doesn't look that great. And the bad thing is my eye is very critical. It's very highbrow and discerning. So I come up with something, and it never looks good enough. And it's held me back from being helpful to a lot of people that are getting burned out more and more every day. And I want to share not burnout reports like I have right now on Amazon Unlimited Kindle that you can get for free with Kindle Unlimited. I don't want to talk about the problem anymore. I want to present solutions. All right. And then when we get more physicians doing this, then I'm going to pivot back over to this HCAHPS thing. And if every hospital CEO in the country does not have an onboarding program, then I'm gonna work on that with people. I mean, the bad thing is there's 5,000 hospital CEOs, community hospital CEOs out there. Very few people, really addressing this issue. And then there's one of me, 5,000 to 1, and I want to help everybody, but I'm not going to be able to. So those are my thoughts for the day. This was fun. Next time we're going to have some fun. Next time I'm going to break out of the vault. I have some memes. I have healthcare memes, meaning pictures with little snarky words. And these memes explain in a more visceral way what's wrong with healthcare and reimbursements and all these things. Why didn't you lead with the fun stuff, Nathan? Well, because I wanted to have kind of a more serious layout. I didn't want to look like I'm oversimplifying, because when you see these memes, like I have the distracted boyfriend meme, all right? A arguably very sexist meme, but it's a meme that you see constantly on your Facebook feed, so it's fair game. So we're going to use the distracted boyfriend meme. This is when he's with his girlfriend or his wife, maybe. They're younger, so probably a girlfriend or something. And then there's an even prettier girl that walks by, and the distracted boyfriend goes, "What?" What? And you're looking at that, and if you're a guy, you're thinking, oh, the struggle is real, because it's just, it sounds like a cop out, but that is a tendency. All right. And some might say it's biological. Other people say, no, you must will yourself, and you can discipline yourself as a man not to do that. Now people are going to come after me for saying that, if they haven't learned to discipline that. But so the guy's head, so you're watching this and you're thinking the meme, oh my gosh. And then the girlfriend of the distracted boyfriend has this look, all right? And we know it, we get it. Now, that is an encapsulation of healthcare. I didn't want to lead out with that. I also have Star Wars and Joker memes, which is real great, from the Dark Knight, some great memes there. I didn't want to look like I was trivializing this issue on the front end. I wanted the first time that I talk about it be a little bit more sober, but a little bit positive and solution-oriented in the end. Next time, we're going to give you a break. We're going to talk about these memes. I hope you enjoy, share this message. If I said anything that resonated, please, again, feel free to share your experience. If you're a patient, if you're a provider, if you're a person in charge in governance or executive role, share your perspective. I do want, let's keep it within the bounds of traditional medicine, or the traditions of traditional medicine. You can challenge the traditions of traditional medicine. That's absolutely what I'm doing here. But if we just put a bunch of things that may or may not be relevant to traditional medicine, it's not going to influence the decision makers and the people that are part of this system, everybody of whom are dissatisfied. Everybody wants a better way, and we all have these different perspectives, unfortunately, which is where the challenge is. All right, everybody. Wow, almost an hour today. I'm signing off. Take care.